So there's going to be a showdown between Jake Haener and Spencer Rattler in training camp for the backup QB position. Something we need to talk about. I'm Tim, so let's talk Saints. So Spencer Rattler and Jake Haener looks like they're going to have a battle for the backup QB job in training camp, kind of based on the look and the feel and the vibe kind of coming out of OTAs and mini camp the last month. This is important for the Saints because the Saints, the last two seasons, have spent a ton of money on a backup quarterback that they never really wanted to put on the field. 2022, Winston hurts his back seriously. I think it was some type of fracture involved even in game one. And it took a god awful amount of bad play in the next few weeks before they even thought about sitting down the injured quarterback to go with the backup and Dalton. Last year, plenty of examples of, I think, the offensive line actively trying to get Derek Carr killed out on the football field and him taking just unbelievable shots to the point that he had to go into concussion protocol before we'd be willing to put Winston in as the backup to go in there. Shit, crap tons of money. Paying a guy not to play for the most part. And you just can't keep doing that. At some point, a backup quarterback, even though you don't want to use them, you're going to have to. And what's going on here is you have two guys not making a lot of money for a change as your backups. Two guys, young guys, you have a chance to develop from the ground up is basically what's happening right now. One a rookie, one a near rookie because he's in his second year. I mean, look, we couldn't get the highly paid backup on the quarterback. No chance the fifth round pick was going to show up out there. But you have a chance to develop them. And it's an incredibly dumb way to spend roster resources and money, especially when you've got cap issues, by paying guy millions of dollars and go, no, we're not playing you no matter what. Now, that being said, I do get it that outside in recent years have maybe, well, definitely Brock Purdy and Nick Foles as two examples of outside the norm. If you got to rely on your backup quarterback for long periods of time in the NFL, you're probably not going to get the deep playoff run, conference championship, Super Bowl type situation. Purdy's managed to do it twice in his 2 years. Foles came in relief and actually won a Super Bowl with a great playoff run. So it's possible. But the odds are what you're looking for to your backup quarterback is to come in and take snaps in a game, maybe play a couple quarters. Worst case scenario, have to play a couple games, a la Teddy Bridgewater coming in for Drew a couple of years ago, to hold the ship together to the point where you can go out and get your starter back, your stud back, and go back to winning games. And this is really why it's important that you don't want to be in a, let's look at two of the quarterbacks we played last year against, Tyler Badgett for Chicago or Tommy Cutlets for the Giants. You don't want that situation. Because if you wind up in that situation, I mean, for all intents and purposes, your season's over, you're totally cooked, and you're getting ready to have a high draft pick the following year. What you're really looking at is Rattler and Haener. They're kind of opposites of the same coin in a weird sort of way. But just real quick, we know that Rattler he's highly recruited coming out of high school. Oklahoma signed him, became the starter, didn't pan out. He transferred to South Carolina. Kind of some off the field stuff materialized both from when he was in high school. Watched Netflix documentary apparently to find out about that, and some stuff that may or may not have happened at Oklahoma to some degree. Seems to have matured at South Carolina. Nothing like that really followed his 2 years in South Carolina. But the issues had NFL teams kind of red flagging him. And mostly agree, hey, he was a second-day talent, second or third round pick type guy. But they didn't put a lot of trust, and they're going, you just probably want to wait if you're going to take him in the third third day, fifth round or later, which is kind of how he wound up on the Saints when we had our first fifth round pick and he was sitting there. I don't think anybody's ever, in fact, not that I could find, everybody's actually doubted his physical talent. But there was a debate how much it could positively translate in the NFL and his, how bad his, I don't want to say bad, but he could get a knock a little bit about kind of being a gunslinger and forcing balls and wrong reads and stuff like that. And would that limit his ceiling in the NFL? That's really the debate on him as far as the physical talent. It was the red flag kind of other stuff that cost him quite a bit of draft capital. But Haener is kind of the opposite of all that because going back and reviewing his pre-draft stuff, going into the draft in 2023, there's almost none of that stuff. He played at Fresno State, and he was always projected as a day 3 pick because he had solid play at Fresno or better than solid. He was actually kind of good there. Really a lot of talk about his accuracy and his ability to run the offense and make reads, and was really good in the intermediate and short passing game. Had a low turnover rate, a high TD to interception ratio. Problem for Haener is he didn't check a lot of their boxes on his physical traits, arm strength, things like that. And so the physical part didn't really impress NFL scouts, but they kind of liked his other stuff. So, and if you're going to talk about what their draft profile was, from what the limited amount we're seeing and hearing now as they're in this part of the season, which is the learning process of OTAs and mini camps, they seem to be following their draft profile because what we're hearing and what little bit we can see on visually is he's looked to be the better thrower. In fact, more than one person or tweet or anybody who is actually at the media portions of the practices to witness it say every now and then he just, for lack of a better phrase, what they're saying is a holy shit throw. Latest one I know was to A.T. Perry last week that got a lot of buzz and I think was in a couple clips that you can find. Haener, on the other hand, when they did talk about him, it was mostly about very sound mechanically, and from what they could see, um, running as they were learning being taught the offense, seemed that he had a little better grasp of it and was learning and operating it a little better. Keep that in context though. It was noted several times that when they're talking about the install of the offense, when they were working on that, Carr and the ones were kind of operating a little faster than the twos and threes where Haener and Rattler were. And it should be mentioned that they were alternating with the twos and the threes taking turn in equal time, which we'll talk about a little more later. So very early on, it's like maybe even the first week of OTAs, the first media day that they had for the first week of OTAs. I did see a clip of Bobby Hebert, and the guy interviewing him was asking him about the two backup quarterbacks, and he basically summed it up as Rattler. Look, Rattler can spin it. He's got a very strong arm, but in that particular practice, he was saying, but Haener was accurate and had very good ball placement, and he seemed comfortable with what they were doing so far in his progressions and reads and getting the ball where it needed to go. And Bobby said that's the difference between the two. But ideally, you want both. You want the guy with the ball placement operating the offense with the arm speed. And as Dennis Allen said last week, I believe in minicamp, one of the last press conferences he had, but the backup quarterbacks kind of came up again, and he was talking about that in this part of the off season, which meaning the OTAs and the mini camps, it's a part about taking a chance with these guys or these guys taking their chance to make a play. to kind of, as he has said before, make us notice what you're doing out there. But he said the flip side of that is kind of, it's also part of them learning just how fast that window can close against an NFL defense, where you think you're going to make a throw that you made in college, but it's not going to fly against, and especially the Saints defense. That window closes fast, and so there's some throws you you either have to gun it in there or you have to anticipate it. So if you notice the highlights I was just showing, it was pretty much, I think, 100% Rattler highlights. Um, it's a great job if you notice that. And the reason why is because there was so little usable Haener footage out there. Um, I decided not to include it just to prove a point, because the point is the majority of the focus has been on Rattler for the last month or so. I mean, there's been some sprinkle of Haener stuff in there now and again, but for the most part, it was again the holy shit throws that he, when the media was there and able to see. Um, that was the talk. That was always kind of, hey man, Rattler made another great throw in this practice. But when they finally started, and I know they had mentioned it, but it seemed to come in a little more focus last week during mini camp, and I guess because they were able to see more and learn more, that they had been splitting that work in twos and threes equally the whole time, which is really important because look, in the NFL, if you're running with the twos, that means you have it, lack of a better phrase, you have a shot. You have a shot at making the roster. You have a shot at playing time. So those reps don't exactly come just to anybody. But the Saints were obviously letting them rotate in and out because we want to get serious, hard looks at both of them. And I think that's kind of what Bobby Abraham may have been the first one to pick up on. It's like when he said that, he's like, yeah, the arm strength and all is great, but you got to look at the other guy who's doing what Drew Brees did for years for us. Keep it in context. I'm not saying any quarterback on our roster is anywhere near Drew Brees. Okay. But I understand the thought process that he's bringing up because for years, everybody said, well, Drew Brees doesn't really have that strong of an arm. What he did have is great accuracy, ball placement, could get through his progressions real fast and run the offense that Sean wanted him to run. Bobby's just pointing it out. Hey, yeah, he's got a cannon. But that guy over there knows what he's doing. So I don't think you can undersell that Haener actually has an experience edge, for lack of a better word, because he was in a training camp last year with an NFL defense who was pretty good. Probably has an understanding now a little better of what I know, what I can do, I know what I can't do, and if I want to make this team, I got to do the stuff I can do really, really well and impress the coaches with it. So that's important. But at the same time, let's be honest, if Rattler can learn just a little bit of that to go with the cannon he has, you might have the makings of, and there'll be a video next week on Derek Carr where I explain this further. But when Derek Carr plays as the best version of himself, when he's playing really well, and we see glimpses of it at times, he's the guy that can run the offense, throw the ball accurately, but he's got the cannon to fit a ball through tight windows. So ultimately, I mean, yeah, that's what everybody's right. That you want both. That's what everybody wants. Rattler may have the best chance of providing that for you, but right now, I don't know. I don't. Well, I have a guess, but I don't know for sure. So I think that's why this is a battle in the making in training camp, and a very, very important one. One of these guys has to step up and be ready if something unfortunate happens to Derek Carr. Bottom line, to have any chance, like we said, it's rare. You can make that deep run, but probably what you're looking for if something happens is a Teddy Bridgewater type thing, a Chase Daniels type thing from way back in the day when he was there. Man, just come in. If it's for a couple quarters, keep us in the game. If it's for a couple of games, give us some solid chance to win until the big guy comes back and can take over and start leading the offense. So if you agree, smash the like button and give me in the comments the best guess is who's going to win. But let me know with the like button if you think, hey, this is an important training camp battle, and it wasn't the clear cut victory that Rattler was kind of almost being given very early in the OTA minicamp process. I think there's a real fight that could be brewing there, which is great because steel sharpens steel or iron sharpens iron or something like that, and is the phrase. Well, it is true. Competition is going to make both of them better. There's no doubt about that. So I think it's very important, very important. You have a great competition here, and that somebody clearly wins the job with the ability, like we said, something unfortunate happens, he can get in and run the offense for a little while and keep things together. So we'll see how it turns out at the end of July. And for what it's worth, my age bias, if you want to know my opinion on the subject, and it is my age bias, I'm just leaning towards experience over ability. I guess you could say 20 years ago, I'd flip that and go, oh no, you go with ability, experience doesn't matter. But when you get older and more experience, you're going, eh, I'm going to lean towards the experience. But we'll find out when it gets real at the end of July for sure. Um, and real quick, for the next few weeks, we'll be talking about some meaningful, if not crucial, training camp battles that will be going on. Got about 5 weeks till training camp. I have about 5 or 6 maybe different, and I'm sure you figure out who they are. We're going to be talking about offensive line. We're going to be talking about linebacker. We're going to be talking about safeties. We're even going to be talking about kickers because that's looking like a battle in itself and it is relatively important. So make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notifications. That way you'll be ready. As soon as I drop them, you can watch. Let me know what you think on it. So till next time, I'm Tim. Peace out. Who dat?